Welcome to My Forever Home, the podcast. I'm Frances Cosway and I've helped hundreds of people create forever homes. I can't wait to share the journey with you. So let's start. Welcome everyone to the Your Forever Home podcast. Today I'm really excited to have the topic of the builder's insight and what can go wrong. And I'm very privileged, or we're very privileged to have Jeremy Gates here with us today as our very special guest from Gaia Construction. Now, Jeremy and I have worked on several projects together, and I'm sure we'll get to why there are such amazing advantages to getting your builder involved early on whatever you're doing. But because we're in the kitchen design essentials season, Jeremy and I are going to speak specifically today around kitchens and some of the things that he sees as a builder that are really not in the client's interests and things that can really pull them up. So they're going to cost them a lot of money or they're going to live with big regrets. So I think this is going to be a super episode to really get you armed and prepared for your kitchen renovation or makeover or new kitchen creation. And I'm really excited to be able to go through with Jeremy, his awesome insight into this process. So firstly, let me just introduce and give you an overview of Jeremy. So he's the Managing Director of Gaia Construction. He started Gaia in 2012 and he's originally from England, which you'll hear very soon with his accent. He came to live in the sunny city of Melbourne in 2008 with his lovely wife, Sue, who also works at Gaia and is the backbone of all the systems and processes and administration. She does a great job. So they came here for the more relaxed lifestyle in what they call the world's most livable city. I won't go into that conversation with you today, Jeremy.
That's all right.
Because I miss London and he's happy to be out of it.
Okay.
So Jeremy trained as a carpenter and joiner and then ran his own building company in London for more than 10 years, specialising in structural renovations and extensions. And the experience that he has from England, working with existing buildings, sets his business apart from the Australian builders when it comes to renovations and extensions. And I can certainly vouch for the differences that makes. He has the experience in cutting-edge European methods and materials now emerging in Australia. And this means that he's able to bring a unique set of skills and perspectives to every project. He's registered as a green living builder and is a certified passive house tradesperson, which is obviously, for those of you who follow me, big music to my ears because I'm very, very passionate about sustainability and passive house design. So this means that he's passionate about the benefits that passive houses have to offer. So Jeremy, what an awesome background you have and welcome on the show.
Hi Francis, good afternoon. Thanks for having me here today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so great to have you on the show. And look, for those of you, I mentioned it briefly, Jeremy and I have worked together on quite a few projects. And what I do love about working with Jeremy is that we are generally working on projects together very early on, which gives our clients so much value in being able to make sure that we pick up any issues that may come along the way. So it's great to have you here today.
Thanks very much.
So as we talked about in terms of the topic, we're going to get your valuable builder's insight on the show today for our listeners. And I suppose to kick it off, what is one of the biggest oversights that you see that creates problems for the builder? What are the main ones that you see from a kitchen design perspective that really creates issues for you?
Oh, it's say somebody is having a designer come in, they've got a concrete floor, and they just move everything. And then you can't get the plumbing. If you've got the plumbing in the iron bench, and you move the iron bench, you've got to dig the whole concrete floor up. If it's in a polished concrete floor, you can never get it up the same. So just little things like that. If you're putting in more gas appliances, depending what the gas feed is into your existing house, you might even have to upgrade the gas line from the street. If you're putting in an induction top, depending on what your fuse board is, you might even have to upgrade your fuse board. These are the sort of things that your designer might not look at. It's the things I look at.
Yeah, and I mean, just on the concrete floors, I mean, I think people think that it's really easy to move plumbing and, I'll just move it from there to there. And they don't understand that, you've got to actually start grinding into that concrete to move things around and that you will have gaps and so forth from where things were. So And I suppose this is one of the advantages of getting someone like yourself on board early, because you can highlight to the client, look, this is going to be the implication.
Yeah, and anything can be done, but the implication is the cost.
Of course, anything's possible as
is
long
like,
as you've got an open wallet.
Yeah, not many people have, and I don't think they should do really. But everybody wants value for money.
Exactly. And it's like, well, if people are informed though and know about that early on, they can then say, well, that's going to be worth us spending money on because that's going to drive me nuts if I don't have it. Or, you know, I might spend here and then I might save somewhere else because that's really important to me. But if they don't know, they can't actually make that informed decision.
Yeah. And even like, we talk about other things, people not telling us that they've got a water point for their fridge. It comes to the end of the job and say, oh, we need a water point in there. Easier if you told us at the beginning. We generally put one in for fridge for standard, or they need a steam oven. They need a water point for a steam oven. One of the biggest ones is with certain extractor fans, the really high quality ones, you've got to be able to get the ducting out. If you can't get the ducting out, you can't install it. You've got to look at a different system. That's a very, very common one we come across quite often.
Yeah, and I mean, but obviously, if you're building a passive house, you won't be having it extracting out. But that's another story. We won't talk about that just now. It's interesting you say about the fridge actually, because not everyone, a lot of people that I find, you know, clients are designing a kitchen around their current fridge, and you know they forget about. And of course, we're talking about forever homes that they're probably going to change their fridge in the next 10 to 20 years. And so I always try and get on the designs, make sure that there's provision for a water point. Because who knows what's going to happen down the track, and they may want a fridge with a water point in that it's got you know the free flowing water. Exactly,
and also with fridges and different ovens as well. The ovens and the doors need more clearance on them. So when you open the doors on certain ovens, particularly the standing ovens, the big freestanding ones, that you can't fit them in tight, but you can use your oven. So you need gaps on the side of them. So just little things you need to be aware of.
Yeah, I mean, those sorts of things, you know, I know with some of the project we've been working on, you're able to look over the joinery details and say, look, yeah, we probably need a bit of extra space here, or look, I'd prefer to do the door like this because it's going to save extra money, or whatever it is. At least you're able to see that up front rather than things just being left right to the last minute.
Yeah, and as a builder, I always look at it from the practicality point of view.
Yeah.
So you always look at it from the design point of view with a practical tint as well. But sometimes it's like, no, Jeremy, we prefer the design item rather than the practical item, which is fine. There's no right or wrong here.
No, I mean, you're really looking at it from the construction point of view. And I mean, I know that we are always looking at it from a functionality and aesthetic, and sometimes one needs to weigh up over the other. But then you've also got your building slant on it in terms of how difficult is that going to be to actually produce as it is, you know, as it's drawn or as the client maybe expect it to be.
Yeah.
And so what's the best way in your view to approach designing a kitchen? How would you, if someone's coming to you, because I know that you speak to a lot of clients really early on in the process, which is awesome that they're doing that, but what do you advise your clients with regards to that?
Well, first, you've got to decide on a budget. It's the most important thing, because that would decide which direction the kitchen's going to go in. What sort of kitchen is it going to be as well? What the finishes are. If you've got a young family, you're not going to I wouldn't recommend putting 2-pack finishes in. 2-pack chips and marks. Go for a laminate, really good laminate, or a really very good vinyl wrap.
Well, I'm glad you're saying that about 2-pack, Jeremy, because it's exactly my view.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, 2-pack for young families.
Yeah. In the past, vinyl wraps weren't very good, but in the last 5 or 10 years, they've got a lot better. They don't delaminate like they used to do. Talk about how you're going to use your kitchen. Is it going to be the hub of the home? Do you do lots of cooking? Is it what sort of appliances do you want in there? How many ovens? Some people want 2 ovens. Some people want 1 oven and a steam oven. Some people want a little oven. Decide what you want. Do you need a wine fridge? Do you go in gas or induction? Preferably, I prefer induction tops now. I think they're really good, but that's because I prefer not to use gas. But if you want gas, that's fine. Also, look at where's your coffee machine going to go? We're in Melbourne. Everybody basically drinks coffee. So you've got to look at that. Where's your toaster going to go? Do you want it on show? Do you not want to see it? Just little things. Have a look at your friends' kitchens. See what works well.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them what works well, what doesn't work well. And,
Yeah, I think that's, sorry, go on.
And having the dishwasher close to the drawers where you're going to stack everything. There's nothing worse than having to walk away from the dishwasher to put stuff in the drawer. It might seem like a silly little thing until you go into somebody's house where you can go from the dishwasher straight without moving away.
Yeah, completely agree. It's interesting. I was actually looking at some floor plans yesterday for a client. They just got me in to have a look, and their dishwasher, it would have been so much better aesthetically to have it in a particular location. But I said, we have to forgo the aesthetics here. We have to have it in a location that is going to make it practical for you to basically turn around and put all your crockery into the drawer, rather than having to step and keep, it's so much further away. It's just not practical. So, I mean, all the things you're talking about now are all the things that we ask our clients as well, to make sure that it's thought about, all their storage. And I did, the second episode in this whole series was all about how do you work out where everything's going to go and how you're going to use it, and how do you need to access it, and how frequently do you need to access it, because that ultimately determines where everything's going to be stored and used.
Yeah, I know you're particularly good at doing the storage and making sure everything's in exactly the right place where they want it.
Yeah, and I find it so critical though that people know it in advance, rather than just sort of it's designed and for cabinetry's sake, without it really considered where everything's going to go. Right down to, a client I know we've been working on together, a tiny little, a pull-out pantry, because she was so adamant that was going to work for her, and she really needed that. And we worked out exactly what was going to go in there to make sure it was going to be feasible for her.
Yeah.
So then when do you feel is the best time to engage a builder? I mean, I know I've spoken about the reasons why for your entire job it's worth getting a builder involved really early, but if you are renovating or building a new kitchen, when's a good time?
The same as any other building work, just at the beginning. So to start off with, so you can get a realistic cost on your budget. If you turn around and say, this is what I want to do, I've got $25,000, I'm like, you're probably going to be a little bit tight there. We just walk in and you say, oh, I want to do this. I want to move this wall. I want to do this. I say, well, I'm moving that wall. It's a load-bearing wall. The cost implication that moving that wall is going to be X amount of money. And then just straight away, and then you can have a look to work out what your costs are and work out a realistic budget. And
all often, I think I think the days of getting a kitchen for 10 grand are well and truly over, but I think sometimes people feel that that's possible. You certainly can't do a new kitchen. You might be able to do a bit of a revamp and a makeover, I call it. But yeah, I think it's good to have a really good expectation about what's realistic in terms of what your expectations are. And you can actually save a lot of money, I think, in terms of what the finishes and the materials are going to be as well. There are ways to save money.
Yeah. When I speak to people, I say a new kitchen typically costs between $40,000 and $60,000, depending on what appliances you have, what splashbacks, what materials. With our appliances as well, we got accounts at various shops, and you can go to the shop yourself and you can get your price. I will then get the same price and get my trade discount, and we pass those trade discounts on to you 100%.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you get a big save. You can actually see it. We give you both prices so you can see what you're saving.
Oh, that's really great, because I think that a lot of the expectation is that if anything's ordered through the builder, there's going to be, they might get a trade discount, but then they put their 20% margin on, or whatever the margin is. So that's great that you're able to pass that trade discount on to your clients.
Yeah, we do still put a margin on, but that's how a builder makes his money.
Yeah, of course. I mean, everyone's got to make their money. So
there's pros and cons. You can supply the appliances yourself. You won't get as good a price as what you get as what we would get, but then you are responsible for them. So if they turn up on site and they've got a scratch on them, it's your responsibility. If they turn up on site and they don't work in 3 months' time, it's your responsibility to sort it out. When the builder supplies it, there's margins on top. They take responsibility for it. That's part of the deal.
So just exploring that a little bit more, Jeremy. So if, you know, one of your clients ordered their dishwasher through you, does that mean then that if it goes wrong, something goes wrong with it, that they call you about it, or they call the manufacturer?
They call the manufacturer.
Yeah. Okay. But it's more if it's delivered and it's not, you know, up to standard, then you've got to make sure that it's right.
Yeah. If it's delivered and we unwrap it and there's a scratch on the door, we say, you know, if I've supplied it, it's right. I'm straight onto the supplier straight away. If you've supplied it, it becomes your responsibility.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So that saves a lot of mucking around for homeowners that particularly are time poor, that they have to be worrying about all that sort of stuff.
On a separate note, we were having dinner at a friend's house 2 weeks ago after lockdown had been stopped, and their dishwasher had stopped working. So we got out the instructions and we worked out it was just the filter needed cleaning. And I went to look at somebody's house last week. This is actually a true story. They had the same dishwasher and it had stopped, so I knew exactly what to do. They had the repairman coming out that afternoon and we cleaned the filter and they saved themselves $250 on the repair.
Oh no, Jeremy, I have to put my hand up. I've done exactly the same thing. I've had the repairman come out, my dishwasher's not working, and he said, oh, you see this thing? This thing needs to be cleaned on a relatively frequent basis for your dishwasher to work. So embarrassment plus. It's happened to me. So for anyone out there, you need to make sure you clean your filters before you call a repairman for your dishwasher, because more often than not, that'll be the problem.
They're really easy to clean. It's a basket.
They are.
In the bottom of the dishwasher, you put your hand in, you take it out, wash it in the sink, you put it back in.
Oh, but man, they stink.
Okay.
But anyway, so getting back to, we'll get off dishwashers for a second, but that's top tips for dishwashers for our lovely listeners. So what's the best approach, do you think, to get the best result for your kitchen? So obviously have a look at what your friends are doing, work out what appliances you need, get a builder in to see what your budgets are and what walls can be moved, if any, and all those sorts of things. What other things would you suggest in terms of getting the best result?
Obviously do your homework on your appliances and get we know each other, we work very well together. You really want to get the designer and the builder. It is your kitchen, so it's not about building the designer's dream or building the builder's build, because that's easier to build. It's getting the design and the build that you want. It's really important. So it's getting people that want to go on the same journey with you, that put your priorities first. If you do want something that they don't really think works properly, that's fine, but they've informed you and that enables you to make the decision.
Yeah, I think that is, it's so critical. I do see it a lot that clients that have come to me after and they've said, look, we sort of got railroaded by the designer. They told us we should have this, this and this, rather than really listening. You need someone that's really going to listen to you. And I think that's across all the experts that you get involved in your project. They need to listen and really understand what you're trying to achieve, because it is your home. And I mean, for those who follow me a lot, realize that I'm harp on about it all the time. Forget about the Joneses, just focus on what you want. It's your house at the end of the day. I'm going to ask you, and this comes up a lot for me, people that say, oh no, I'm just going to get my builder, they've just got a floor plan of their kitchen, I'm just sort of going to tell him what I want rather than having joinery design done. Do you work with clients that don't have any joinery design? What's your view on, you know, clients saying, look, I can sort of just tell the cabinet maker what I want? What's your view on that?
The cabinet maker's job is to build what's drawn. To do a job properly, it has to be drawn. If it's not drawn, who's responsible if it's wrong? Unless it's drawn properly, or if it's drawn, it's easy to adjust. The cabinet maker's job is not to design your kitchen for you, and they wouldn't do that for you. I am a builder, I can give you advice, but I can't draw the kitchen. But somebody has to draw it up and pass all those details onto the cabinet maker. Some people like to do it by hand. Sometimes it works, but it usually doesn't.
Because I have had a lot of clients who are very reluctant to get elevations. They get their floor plan done by a draftsperson and they're quite reluctant. They don't see the value in getting the joinery design And interesting, just last night I was talking to someone and he said, well, I sort of know what I want and I was just going to instruct the builder on what I wanted. And I was sort of saying, well, how deep are your drawers going to be? And what are they going to be made of? And what are the internals going to be? And where are the cupboards going? And so would you work with someone that doesn't have any drawings?
No, I'd usually call you.
to get the drawings.
Even little things like, do you want handles or you don't want handles?
Exactly.
Okay, if you want handles and it's not drawn, you say, I just want handles on all my doors, you find that your drawers won't open in the corners.
Yeah.
Or the doors are catch on the handles. It's these little things that get pulled up in the drawings. That's when it comes to light. Otherwise, people just can't see it. And I'm responsible to build as I'm told to build. And it's all instructed. And it's all everything always has to be drawn. For a builder or a joiner, it always has to be done in 2D drawings. When you work with our designers, you can get them up in 3D as well, which is really good and it's really useful to look at. But it's not good to build off. It's not accurate enough to build off. So you always have to go back and understand the drawings. We've actually put out a video, I can send it to you, Francis, on how to read drawings last week. So it's really important to be able to understand two-dimensional drawings like the plans and the elevations. It can be quite confusing to start off with when you first see them, but if you watch the video, it just gives you some top tips. Just start off with one little bit of your kitchen, you'll soon understand what's going on.
Oh, that sounds like an awesome resource. And for listeners, I'm happy to get that video and stick it in the show notes for all our listeners so that they can get that value too, Jeremy. That sounds great. I mean, it is a skill to be able to read drawings and really understand. And I know that some people find it quite difficult to visualize, which is where the 3D can come in handy. But as you say, the precise measurements and the paneling and all that sort of stuff, the side panels and the thickness of boards and everything else, you can only do that in 2D drawings.
Yeah, and I also spend a lot of time, if somebody's my client, I'll spend a lot of time explaining the drawings to them. This is what it means. Yes. This is what this view means. This is what this elevation means. Just so you understand. Certain people won't do that. They just fire the drawings off to you. So yeah, all right, do you understand that? You might have 20 drawings for your kitchen and pantry, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. So we just break it down into little snippets, take you through them, make it so you understand it in principle, have a look at them, come back to us with any questions. Happy to spend as much time as you need to work so you understand. It's really important that you understand it properly.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's great advice. And so how should people work with their builder when they're doing a kitchen? What's the best way to work with the builder, not just at the start, but throughout the duration of the project?
I can only speak for myself. So for us, if you come to do, I'll come and meet you. The first meeting's free. There's no charge. It can last between 1 and 2 hours. After that, you'd engage the builder on a fixed fee or fixed price quote. It's like any professional advice. You get better advice if you pay for it.
Yeah, agree.
So engage me to do, and if we end up doing the build, what we do, we actually refund that fee off the cost of the build. But engage your builder treat them as a professional.
No, absolutely. And I think that not everyone, sorry, I will track that immediately, but I think there's so many people out there that are providing free advice or free this and free that. But you've also got to think about, well, okay, what are their qualifications and are they going to give me the right advice? What's their vested interest?
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people are looking at, kitchen companies to come and do their kitchen. And I suppose from my view, they may not be they're looking at the kitchen in isolation rather than the flow on to the rest of the home. What's your view on, getting a kitchen company to come in separately to do the kitchen?
On our jobs, they're usually designed and we supply them anyway through our joiners. They can do good jobs. They do have targets to meet. They can be quite heavy selling, and they might not know the salesperson that comes to stay with the kitchen is not the designer.
Yeah.
So they might not give you the best deal. You get the best ideal for your design. Also, if you talk to me about a kitchen, then we go back to again, we talk about moving walls, moving windows. Where can the plumbing go? Is it easy to move the plumbing? Is it easy to move the gas? Is it easy to move the electrics? These are all conversations that you can have against early. I know we spoke about it earlier, but these are really important things.
Well, they are, because it impacts cost so much.
Yeah.
And like you said before, everything's possible. It just all costs money.
For an example, kitchen we did at the start of the year, the board that was ordered, it turned out I spoke to my joiner, there was a 3-month lead-in period on the veneer boards that come in. So we can make that work with the job, so that's okay. But if you're choosing a kitchen, you're just doing the kitchen. You can't wait 3 months for the boards, otherwise your kitchen has to be delayed for 3 months. So little things like that as well.
And it's getting that understanding and being aware of it too. But obviously, if you've got the conversations going constantly with all of the team, the designers and the builders and so forth, you won't be left with that sort of scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what do you see clients do detriment to themselves and the end result that could have been avoided?
They design a kitchen themselves. They draw up a plan. They say, "Oh, I'm just going to get the builder to sort that out." You'll end up paying for things twice, and you can also undercapitalise your kitchen, which is just as bad as overcapitalising on your property as well.
Yeah, I agree. So walk through that a little bit more, Jeremy. Undercapitalising on your kitchen.
You'll put. You won't use you won't make the best use of the space.
No design, basically.
Yeah. Drawers. Not many people have doors nowadays. Drawers are much more useful. You get a lot more things in drawers. Or somebody might say, "I want a zip tap." They don't realise the cabinet for a zip tap is quite big. If you want the full zip tap, you need a basically 600 by 600 mil cabinet to get it all in, and a vent on the back of it.
I'm going to say, and the air vent.
Yeah.
So it's not just the cost. It takes up a lot of precious space as well.
Yeah. So people won't allow for that in their kitchen. They'll even go and buy the zip tap. And they say, "Right, there's a kitchen," and they say, "Well, there's nowhere for it to go."
Yeah, I've seen it happen as well. Yeah. And so, and I suppose it does all then come back to the design. You're saying that they design it themselves, and I see that happen too, that they're designing it themselves, but they may not also be aware of some of the products that are available that actually aid in the design of a kitchen and give you really amazing space-saving solutions.
Yep.
But also the materials. I was just, recently speaking with, some other people that were guests on the show around, people go for the products that they know, but then they may be missing out on all these other products that they're not even aware of that are going to suit their needs and their budget so much more in a much better way.
Yeah, even things like they might have a composite stone bench top. They say, "Oh, yeah, we want to use that for the splashback." But then you've got a gas cooker. You can't have it. 200 mil of the gas cooker. We can't have that. No, and then it doesn't look the same. It's little things like that. Clearances from bench tops to the underside of extractor fans. Different extractor fans have different heights. There's a certain brand that's 700 or 750. They're quite expensive. They're great, but if you put it in at 695 and it breaks, you won't get the warranty will be invalid on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, when you're working in a smaller kitchen, the clearance between, your stovetop and your sink and, there's regulations for all sorts of different things. So it is, and that's another reason, because the regulations are changing all the time. And I know I'm checking in with you to say, look, what's the latest regulation for this? Because it is changing all the time. And
then I'll ring my plumber or my electrician.
Well, there's some great resources out there, but I know it's always changing.
Yeah.
So if you're going to give your number one tip for those about to renovate or build a new kitchen, what would it be?
Find a designer and a builder who have the same priorities as you. Somebody is on the same journey as you. It is your kitchen, so you've got to be comfortable with the people you're working with.
Yeah, music to my ears. It is their kitchen. It's not the guys down the road. It's not their neighbours. I was talking to someone the other day and they said, I just listened to all my friends and I shouldn't have listened to my friends. I was like, well, it's not your friend's house. It's yours.
Yeah,
So stop listening to all your friends because everyone will have an opinion if you ask for it.
yeah, yeah.
And
Right,
it's,
right or wrong, it doesn't really matter.
oh, that's exactly right. So you've got to keep focused on the fact that it's your journey and the people on your team, you need to be able to relate to them. There's no point having on someone on your team that's the most amazing expert out. But if you don't actually get along with them or relate to them, you're never going to get the proper outcome anyway.
No, no.
You've got to be able to relate to them.
At the end of the day, you want to be able to sit in your kitchen when it's finished. Build a designer, we hand it over to you. We have a nice glass of wine or a glass of bubbles, and everybody's happy. That's what you want, and then be able to say, people come round for your dinner parties or your parties and say, that's a fantastic kitchen. What was the experience like? From the design, the design was really well. The designer was great. The builder gave me realistic costing advice, which enabled me to prioritise my budget. The build happened exactly as per scheduled, and we moved back in on exactly the date we were going to move back in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going back to the management of your the costs, I'm sure that you've seen it many times where people are engaging you much later and they've got this, you know, amazingly designed kitchen, but they actually have no idea what that's going to cost. And so they're so disappointed and they have to start cutting out lots of things to get it back to their budget without really looking at that early on.
Yeah, in bench tops, the finishes, on a typical kitchen, the difference between a good laminate and 2-pack is about $5,000. So you might have a kitchen and a pantry, and if there's $10,000 just on the finish. It's important. You've got the budget. That's fantastic, and it's great. If you haven't talked about this early and you haven't got the budget, it makes an awkward conversation later on.
But it also then comes back to, you know, I mean, you were talking before about, you know, 2-pack, you wouldn't recommend it for family kitchens, and nor would I. But I explained to my clients why. But 2-pack is just a word that is used so much. And so people might think, oh, I'm having 2-pack because that's all they know.
Yeah.
And so they just say, I'm having a 2-pack kitchen or Emperite, whatever you want to call it, because they've got no awareness of what else is out there. And I think that's where they're really missing a trick as well.
Yeah, you get fantastic veneers. If I can, I would recommend using Australian veneers just because we live in Australia. It looks more natural, but there's lots of nice ones. Even the laminates, you get some awesome laminates now.
Absolutely.
Timber, they're hard wearing. You get some really quite funky ones. Depending on what sort of kitchen you want, there's so much little.
There is.
Like colour and
I mean, that's our job, is to keep abreast of all the new things coming out. And it's exciting because there are so many new products, and more they're becoming a lot more sustainable, which is obviously music to our ears because that's our focus, and that they're, you know, they've got really good sustainable credentials, which is always a big bonus.
Yeah, the one thing on the sustainable side of it, we haven't found a way of making the base for the doors. If you get solid timber doors, or recycled timber doors, that's great. But if you're going for a laminate, even 2-pack or shrink wrap, there's not a cost-effective, sustainable board out there.
No. There is a product, an Italian product that's made out of recycled composite, but then it's coming out from Italy and it's in very limited colours.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If you're looking at the sustainability side of it, if you look at the whole life cycle, getting your cabinets made in Italy and coming out on a boat is quite neat.
Oh, completely agree. That's what I mean. It's great that it's there, but you're coming out from Italy, it almost defeats the whole purpose of bringing it out. So that's fantastic, Jeremy. That's awesome insight for our listeners. Now, where can they find you? We're
at, in Elwood. We're based in Elwood. Just have a look online for us. Company's GaiaConstruction.com.au.
And it's GAIA Construction, isn't it?
Yeah, GAIA. My accent might give it away a little bit there.
I know, but, you know, Gaia. And tell me the story, because I obviously know what Gaia, but tell us the inspiration around the name Gaia.
Well, Gaia was a sustainable theory written in the late 1970s by this professor called James Lovelock. He predicted global warming, and everybody called him a bit of an idiot and a nutter. He actually named Gaia, it's originally from Greek for Mother Earth. And so when we say sustainable building, passive house is the best you can get, but not everybody go to passive house. So we talk to you about your budget. We'll talk about what the priorities are, what's the first thing to do. Insulation, double glazing, how you're going to make your house work together. You're going to go solar, you're going to go gas, and just look at an holistic point of view. How long are you going to live in the house as well? If you're going to live in a house for 5 years, you can do this. If you're going to live in a house for 20 years, you're going to spend this. We specialize in renovations and extensions, and traditionally people would go to an architect or a designer. They draw up the plans and it's fantastic. You fall in love with it. Goes out to the builder, comes in with the price. So what we work in reverse, we find out what your budget is, tell you what you can do for your budget, find out what you want to do, tell you what that costs. Then we work with our design teams to come up with a design that you can afford to do and you're happy with.
Yeah, great methodology, because I see it all the time, and it happened to me. It happens to a lot of people that they get it designed, go out to the builders, and then it comes in at 50% more than they were told it would. So it's always a disappointing thing, and then you're cutting corners. Yeah. So, but that's been fabulous, Jeremy. Thank you so much. I think we need to have, after the kitchen design season, a special one on passive house, because it's such a passion. And I know a lot of people are really interested in terms of the differences between passive solar and passive house.
Yep.
And passive house is getting a little bit more traction now in Australia. And I think it'd be an awesome topic to have you back on. So thank you so much for your time today, Jeremy.
Thank you very much for that, Francis. Great to speak to you again, and I will see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Cheers, bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of My Forever Home. If you're ready to renovate or build a new home and you need help to create a beautiful and functional forever home, you can book a chat with me directly at whitepebbleinteriors.com.au/chat. Have a great day.